We're on a journey together of discovery. Discovering that in the good news, according to Luke, we find a fresh look at Jesus. For in choosing to follow Jesus, persons were invited to follow Jesus with no strings attached. In the first 3 weeks, we considered how Jesus was sort of liberated by Luke at the beginning of a story of Jesus' ministry, cutting the string of tradition, the old wineskins, cutting the string of the Ten Commandments concerning the Sabbath, cutting the string of privilege, being chosen. It's important to pause and realize that for the Gentiles, persons with little knowledge of the Christian faith and certainly no adherence to the Hebrew religious life, this understanding of Jesus was new and fresh, no strings attached. It's also important to pause and realize that there was no attempt in the community of faith composed of the followers of Jesus to edit, collate, or combine all the multitude of narratives about Jesus. There were a lot of traditions about Jesus in 70 AD, and in 325, when the New Testament was put together, there was no attempt to collate or edit or combine Matthew, Mark, and Luke. They stood independent of each other as different understandings of Jesus. And for Luke, the uniqueness was that Jesus was presented with no strings attached. And this is our study of considering stories and teachings of Jesus, which are found only in Luke. Now, one of the surprises in this discovery process is that the most quoted story of Jesus' teaching in parables is only found in Luke. That is the story of the Good Samaritan in Luke 10. For many followers of Jesus, this parable is the single most definitive portrait of Jesus. For Luke, that was the case, and it's amazing that it isn't found anywhere else. And when we consider the string that was cut in this parable, I think we discover why Luke included this parable in his narrative, because the string of prejudice was cut. There was no stronger prejudice against any social or religious group in Jesus' time than the prejudice against the Samaritans. This prejudice was so strong that when a Jew wanted to travel from the north to the south in that area of the Fertile Crescent, Samaria was in between two Jewish communities in the north and the south. And to travel from one place to the other, the faithful Jew would cross the Jordan River and go on the other side of the river, taking more days to travel and then returning across the Jordan to avoid having anything to do with those Samaritans. Now, friends, that's deep-seated prejudice. Jesus cut the string of prejudice from his life and his teaching by saying that the good news was for all persons, remember last week, including the despised Samaritans who were used to illustrate what a good neighbor was all about. Now, this is a powerful invitation, not only 2,000 years ago, but also in our time, for prejudice about persons because of class, race, religion, education, citizenship is a common denominator in our world today. Prejudice abounds. Let me just list a few prejudices that I experience almost daily. All wealthy people are self-centered. All poor people are lazy. All Muslims believe in an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. All Muslims believe in a God of retaliation and vengeance. All indigenous people are alcoholics. All black people are intellectually inferior. All college grads are arrogant snobs. All communists are atheists. All Democrats are socialists. All Republicans are racist. I can add to that list. You can add to that list. These examples of prejudice are found in every community where I live and where you live. And prejudice was that common in Jesus' day as well. And Jesus, 2,000 years ago, could have been cut up, processed, and canned. But just like fresh veggies in the supermarket are different than canned veggies, Jesus in Luke is different than in every other narratives. Fresh, no strings attached, not even prejudices that we cherish. You know, it's so painful to watch persons who profess to be Christian today proudly displaying prejudices about others in the name of Jesus, the one who told the story of the Good Samaritan. Jesus today has been cut up, processed, and canned in the prejudices of our day. Let me say that again. Just like 2,000 years ago, when the temptation was for Jesus to be cut up and processed and canned in the prejudices of his day, Jesus today has been cut up, processed, and canned in the prejudices of our day. You see, instead of being cut up, processed, and canned, the Gospel according to Luke presents the stories of a fresh, untethered, no strings attached revelation of divine love in the life and teachings of Jesus. Follow me was the invitation. Follow the way of agape love. Follow the way of living for others. Today, the invitation is the same. Follow me. And one of the understandings of those who follow Jesus today is that if the parable of the Good Samaritan is at least at the heart of what it means to follow Jesus, those of us who follow Jesus today, as those of old who followed Jesus, must put away childish attitudes, including prejudice about others, prejudgments, before we ever accept them as fellow human beings. That's the beautiful and attractive aspect of Jesus' narrative of Jesus, is that it is so fresh. Remember the supermarket analogy. When you pick up a can of veggies, cut up and processed, you have to read the added ingredients on the label of the can to see what has been added to make the product more appetizing. Well, we live in a time in which many strings have been added to Jesus by many groups who choose to follow him. And I believe the story of the Good Samaritan is a warning. These groups who have added some strings to following Jesus have added many ingredients. Strings of understanding, strings of identity have been added. And one of the strings that have been added are favorite prejudices against others. The string is that prejudice is okay, but not according to Luke. For Luke presents Jesus, no added ingredients, just a fresh revelation of agape love. This is who we are invited to follow, one who himself cut the strings that were being attempted to be attached to him. Follow me without any prejudice attached. For your thought and conversation, what are illustrations of groups who claim to be Christian and proclaim and practice prejudice today? And what are your personal experiences of being a participant in having attitudes and being a part of actions based on prejudice? Have a good week. Thank you.